Coming up, which runners will make a splash in the steeplechase? The only athlete from Alaska at the championship, Allie Ostrander, back to defend her title. Back after this.
Come on, get up!
Get Up tomorrow. It's a TV show. It's your alarm clock. Get Up, 7 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. Kenyon Martin in studio. Jalen Rose in Cleveland. Game 4 preview. Could be the end of the NBA Finals coming. Alex Rodriguez stops in to talk about the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry. He certainly knows about that firsthand. It might even fight Jason Varitek. Rick DiPietro joins the show as well to recap Caps Golden Knights Game 5. All that. Get Up tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern.
All right, the next event on the track, the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase, 2 semifinal heats. There are the records, and the defending champion is in heat number 2. This is heat number 1. Paige Stoner, the junior from Syracuse, with the number 3 time in the country this year.
Not only the number 3 time in the country this year, but get this, she's dropped 14 seconds off of her time from 2017. So huge improvements for Paige Stoner from Syracuse.
Like the 1500, the first 5 across the line will automatically qualify from each of these 2 semifinals, and then the next 2 fastest on time. 7.5 laps plus 28 barriers, 7 water jumps in this steeplechase. Dwight Stones along with Jill Montgomery and John Anderson, and we'll have a drive-by from Dan O'Brien because today is day 2 of the decathlon. He'll be joining us shortly.
This has become one of my favorite races to call as of late. There has been a lot of excitement, especially in the women's steeplechase, and this race is all about strength and energy. When you talk about strength and energy, Val Colstein, the junior from Colorado, she is one of them. She has the second best time in the country of 9:47.97, and this race, even though right now they're all bunched together, they don't do the water jump on the first pass. They have to go all the way around, and then they will have their first water jump coming off of this corner right now. But conservation is the key. Navigating all of these barriers and coming off this first water jump sets up the rest of this race.
About 9:30 pace at this point. An inside water jump here at Hayward Field for the steeplechase. And this is an event that only became a world championship event in 2005. First Olympics was Beijing 2008, so they've only contested this race at the Olympics 3 times, and at the World Championships last year, Americans went 1-2 in the women's steeplechase, beating all of the Kenyans, which was a big breakthrough, and I'm certain a lot of inspiration for our collegiate steeplechasers, as Emma Coburn, who ran today, by the way, in Oslo, is trying to get to under 9 minutes, be the first American under 9 minutes. So no doubt an inspiration to these collegiate steeplechasers who now see the Americans dominating and really doing well on the international stage. Okay, so we have got about 5.5 laps remaining, and let's go away from this race for a little while, and down to John Anderson. Back in Eugene, Oregon, heat 1 of the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase, coming up with just 2 laps remaining. And Grayson Murphy, the senior from Utah, has just taken over the lead from Paige Stoner of Syracuse, who picked it up and helped push the pace along. They're running just under 9:50 pace in this first heat.
9:48 pace to be exact, Dwight, and now the pack has strung out from that little bunched up little ball that they were all in earlier, so it's actually been a very honest pickup here in these last couple races. One of the hardest things to do in this race is navigate those barriers. We're going to see Devin Clark from Arkansas in the next heat, but I had an amazing conversation with their head coach, Lance Harder, and he said, imagine being in a hurdle race, a 100-meter hurdle race, and having to have somebody run in front of you. That's what it's like to run over the barriers in a steeplechase. So you don't always have to be the one that maybe would be onto the outside when you run in a single file line. Those women are in front of you, so the navigation of those barriers and being able to have that constant workload of the hurdling and the speed in between is critical in this race.
So they're coming around to the bell, and it continues to be Utah senior Grayson Murphy, 5th in this race last year. And then Paige Stoner, the Syracuse junior with the number 3 time in the country. Remember, first 5 across the line will automatically qualify to Saturday's final. And another heat, of course, still remaining. So the times for places 6 and 7 are very important because they may get through on time. A group of 4 up front, so that battle for 5th still yet to develop. A little gap now is developed.
Grayson Murphy still in the lead, but Sierra Simmons from Utah State making a move on that very first corner, going into the backstretch and pulling herself into second in the all blue. You can see her tucked right behind Utah's Grayson Murphy in the front in the red.
So just 1 water jump and 1 barrier left to go. Murphy takes it well. No loss of momentum there, and that gap of 7 or 8 meters continues. So there's a solid group of 4 who will automatically qualify once they get past this barrier. Murphy is over it. And we'll watch closely the race for 5th. It looks like now 1 athlete has separated herself. So it will be Murphy winning the heat. Sierra Simmons is there, as well as Paige Stoner. And 5th place, Claire Borchers of Michigan. And those times for 6 and 7 will be important. They'll either watch the race from the stands on Saturday or they'll be in it. So established that 9:48 pace, stayed on it, and that's a lifetime best for Grayson Murphy in that heat of the steeplechase.
By over a second. She was 5th at this event last year. So back for redemption, getting through this, almost having to treat it like a final in order to get to that finals on Saturday. Led almost wire to wire in that whole race, did Murphy.
So there are your official results. The first 5 are automatically through. Sarah Scott and Amy Casham will have to sit back and watch to see if those times hold up after the second semifinal. So when we come back on the other side of this break, we will have semifinal number 2, which will include the defending champion, Allie Ostrander of Boise State. Back at Hayward Field in Eugene, Oregon for more of our coverage of the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Dwight Stones along with Jill Montgomery, John Anderson, and Dan O'Brien will be joining us in a moment. Second semifinal heat in the women's 3,000 meter steeplechase. You are looking at the defending champion now, just a sophomore, even though she looks like she was just playing with her Barbies. She is the defending champion in the steeplechase, the very young looking Allie Ostrander, our favorite steeplechaser.
I have now dubbed Allie Ostrander the baby-faced assassin. She is about 2 inches tall. She's really teeny, and man, when she gets, and she's so soft-spoken, when she gets out onto this track, it is another person. And if you don't think that when I said about loving the women's steeplechase isn't true, I just got a text message from 2 Olympic champions and a world record holder. Kevin Young, the world record holder in the 400-meter hurdles and Olympic champion in Barcelona. He is watching this meet with Olympic champion from '96, Kenny Harrison, in the triple jump. They both just texted me saying, "We love the women's steeple."
Sprinters and jumpers loving the steeple. I love it. Well, Boise State sophomore Allie Ostrander was raised in Alaska, but found training in Boise a lot like home.
Training in Boise is awesome. We have an amazing trail system. It's like a 5-minute run from our track. And there are just thousands of miles of trails. And I really like that. It was part of the allure of Boise State for me because I enjoy running on trails. I just think it's so much less monotonous than running on a sidewalk or some trail that just loops every couple miles. In the last few years, Hartke and Immels, our coaches, have done a really great job of building a strong program, and we've worked on our team dynamic. And I just think we have an amazing group of women right now, and training together and working together towards team goals, I think, has elevated all of our individual performances as well. And, Immels as head coach, I think, does a really good job of training us conservatively so that we're not getting worn down throughout the season.
That conservative training that Allie was just talking about has told me yesterday that's been the biggest consistency with her training. It's the clockwork and everything that their coaches have done to put her into this position. Does not like a lot of change in her training. When I asked her, I interviewed her last year at this meet after she won, I said, what have you done differently? She said, honestly, nothing, but I do not like a slow pace. So she said, if I feel like it's slow, I am going to make sure that I take it out and lead, and they're going to have to get me.
She won this race as a freshman, and this year she has, and that was a surprise, she had a big PR to do it, but she is the #1 steeplechaser in the country this year. So we will step aside now that we've established this race, be back with the conclusion of the steeplechase right after this break. All right, 2 laps remaining, and Allie Ostrander, the defending champion, continues to lead over Charlotte Prowse of New Mexico. They've really separated themselves by about 25 meters from the rest of the pack.
They have, and they're on 9:36 pace right now, Dwight. Allie Ostrander has the 8th fastest all time in this event, and you wouldn't know it by talking to her. She is so shy and quiet, like I said at the beginning of this. She really wanted to focus in just this preliminary, setting up for the next barrier. As you see both of these women coming in, when you're looking at Allie come through and then you see Charlotte Prowse from New Mexico, that's the visual acuity I was talking about. They're running in a single file line, so Allie has the clear visual of that barrier and this water jump coming up. When you come up to this water jump, the way you want to jump this is go 1 foot on, off onto the other foot, so that it's almost like a regular sprint stride, and you don't have to bobble or 2 feet jump like these women do, because the second you do that, it knocks you back and takes seconds off your race.
And as you're getting more and more tired, those barriers look taller, and to kill your momentum on that water jump in the last lap is just death.
And listen, this is like running a regular flat 3,000 meters, but think about having railroad ties thrown at you.
Bell lap, and Allie Ostrander continuing to lead now with a little gap over Charlotte Prowse, who is on pace to run about a 10-second personal best if she keeps this up. And then a group of 3, which would comprise the 5 automatic qualifiers, but still a lap left to go. A lot can happen.
The other thing you have to make sure you navigate in here is when I'm talking about coming into those barriers, you have to turn into a hurdler. You don't want to spend a ton of time in the air and look like Karate Kid in the last scene where he has his knees and arms up, because the more time you spend in the air, obviously, that's going to take time off. You want to be able to hurdle over that very clean and very efficient. And when you're in this last lap, those barriers do look a lot higher, and sometimes people will step on top of it if they are fatigued.
So Ostrander now with about a 10-meter gap over Prowse. She takes that water jump well, as does Prowse. So they are going to be 1-2 with 1 barrier remaining, but a little bit of a competition developing for that 4th, 5th, 6th place. And we'll watch that closely as we see Allie Ostrander now coming home to the victory. And she took this lead very early and pushed the pace. She's going to come home at about 9:46, so a couple seconds faster than heat number 1. It's looking like Alsu Bogdanova of Eastern Michigan. And then Devin Clark of Arkansas, we spoke about her earlier. She gets through and has a chance to score for the Razorbacks. But Allie Ostrander, the defending champion, we didn't know who she was last year, and she came through as a freshman and won it. Now she's the one to beat. She wins this second heat rather handily, but it's going to be completely different conditions on Saturday. So Ostrander winning it in 9:45.96. Charlotte Prowse with a lifetime best in second, and then Bogdanova is third. And you can see the advancers to final. Those are the automatic qualifiers. And Sarah Scott and Katie Kuntz, one from each of the 2 heats, making it through on time. So we'll step aside once again. Back with more coverage right after this.